Hello and welcome back to the PNY Pro Podcast. My name is Jerome and I'm here with Derek Ellis. How's it going, Derek?
It's going great, man. Ready to close out the season.
Yeah, we're on our final episode of the season, season two, episode 20. It's been a journey. It's been a journey. We had a
Yes.
lot of good episodes so far. Anything that you're looking forward to for this next season?
I guess kind of jumping into, next season, just looking forward to maybe diving in a little bit more to software. I think for season two, as you said before we went live here, we had a lot of great partners and also NVIDIA on with us, and we were able to talk about a lot of different markets and hardware and kind of how they all intertwine along with AI. But now I think maybe season three, we kind of dive into a little bit more software, such as, NVIDIA Omniverse Enterprise, there's AI Workbench, NVIDIA NIMs. There's a lot more to AI than just the hardware. And I think it would be cool to kind of like dive into that a little bit more. And that way, hardware is important, but software and hardware combined can really, really improve your workflow, especially with, AI training, inferencing, and all that good stuff. So I think I'd be really excited to kind of talk and highlight that a little bit more in season three and looking forward to it.
Yeah, definitely. Because I know that even in the past, again, as you said, we talked a lot about hardware. Just kind of glancing through some of our previous episodes, we spoke about the NVIDIA A800 40 gigabyte. We spoke about the A1000, the NVIDIA A1000, as well as the NVIDIA A400. It was a lot of different, product talk of the hardware side of things, which I think is great, when it comes to all of our different GPUs, all the different offerings that we have. But again, as you said, I think, whether it's talking about NVIDIA NIMs or whether it comes to talking about Omniverse Enterprise, there are many different things that you can do, but, focusing on the software side of things, that kind of works hand in hand with the hardware to make these things work.
Yeah, and I think what kind of like really sparks the interest too is like going back to I think it was episode 15 from season two. We went through GTC, and I was there on site, and we had that workstation and that had a RTX 6000 ADA generation, has 48 gigs of memory, and we are showcasing DaVinci and NVIDIA Omniverse Enterprise. And I think it's one thing to like see all the the marketing materials and push it to market and have visuals and such, but actually having a system with it like loaded on there and using it in real time, I think you definitely appreciate it more because again, that scene was using nearly 37 to 42 gigs of memory just on a single card. And like that's just one scene. Now imagine a much larger scale project. Now you need to get to two, three, possibly four cards and have a cluster of GPUs to kind of really help with your project. So I think again, that's where definitely the spark of interest comes for the software side. It's something that is NVIDIA's pushing a lot as well. So I think getting a little bit more into it and again telling that story of how the software and hardware both combined together will even make your workflow stronger. Again, time is money, as everyone says.
Right.
So again, if you're training a model, what might take on a single card to say a week, you add two cards, it takes half the time. I mean, that over the course of a week, a month, a year, it's a lot of savings just right there. So
Yeah.
I think that's like a great episode too, was the going back to just season two, or as we close out season two, was GTC, because
Mhm.
it was a great show for us. We got to meet some of our partners there on site as well. And yeah, just being able to showcase it. I remember Jensen coming through, checking out the system. He signed the system as well. So a lot of cool highlights there. So even in the season three, hopefully we'll have some more cool events during that season that we can highlight and
Yeah.
add to it.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I think that the GTC event, it was really nice to see again, especially because you're able to talk hand in hand with these people, show them the build, show them what it's capable of doing, and again, integrate the hardware side of things as well as show off the software side of things as well.
Yeah, and again, we another thing too, event wise, like one of our episodes, episode 16 with Data Monsters. We kind of intertwined, hardware again with software where they were doing AI avatars, which they use at events. So that'd be cool to maybe do something like that at a future event, whichever one we attend in the future. But also the one that we had with Sean Young from NVIDIA, I believe that was episode 13, talking about AECO and how RTX really has accelerated the workflow of that from just being able to create a digital twin
Right.
to simulate like lighting, how that's going to work, kind of going back to Da Vinci, where you have a scene and you're moving objects and the path tracing, the ray tracing, you see a lighting move and shadows move. So it's all done in real time. So I think even like, again, going back to just other episodes, which I mean, all of them were great, and we
Yeah.
definitely appreciate everyone taking the time to be on the podcast. But I think it's going to be very beneficial to be able to speak to hardware and software, because I think that is going to be the next big advantage, going forward. Don't want to kind of like keep repeating myself. I just really feel like that is
Yeah.
going to be a big force going forward. I mean, for PNY and even NVIDIA, it's, as you know, AI is a focus. We're starting to do that more even within our own creative workflows for content creation. So yeah, again, just really excited to see, what events we do attend and kind of what else we can kind of push the envelope as we always do with booths and content, and yeah, just showcasing the right hardware and software.
Yeah, I think that the Data Monsters episode was a really nice episode that kind of stuck with me too, mainly because of the fact that, when it comes to the visual side of things, having a digital human there and having a hologram, which is a person that, you're able to speak to, whether it's in a customer service type of field or a healthcare type of field, and having the AI, generate a person behind that to be able to kind of direct you to certain things. I think that that was an episode where it really kind of showed off the software side of things too. But again, for me, being able to kind of visually see exactly what it does, I think that was something that kind of stuck out the most for me in some of these recent episodes that we've had.
Yeah, and then also again, just conversations with NVIDIA. They have their digital human, James, which they showcase, which is really, really cool. So again, utilizing AI and just again integrating that into a website, instead of maybe just imagine going to a website and you need support on something and you're just asking, random questions and AI is spitting out text to you. But now taking that a step further, imagine being able to like ask questions to almost it is like a digital human, and it almost feels like you're speaking to someone direct, which is kind of crazy to think about. And again, that it just really shows how far AI has gone, just even from the start of this podcast. Because I think that's one thing that really stick through all the different episodes, and one topic that was always mentioned was AI. And as
Right.
we know it, AI, again, within medical, ACO, manufacturing, all the big markets, media and entertainment, they all take advantage of AI, and they all take advantage of NVIDIA solutions, because you have ray tracing, you have CUDA cores, RT cores. You also have, uh, encode and decode engines, and the new and latest 8th generation GPUs took it a step further with how many they include based on the GPU that you have. So again, it's a really, really big impact. And I think that's again why driving software as such as, NVIDIA NIMs, to where you can actually download NVIDIA NIMs and then put one of their actual like Llama 3.1 containers
Mhm.
into your AI workflow and be able to experience it and play around with it. And then also be able to build your own AI model or AI human, digital human. As we've been discussing too, I remember, I don't know exactly what event it was, but Jensen showcased, I think it was GTC a few years ago. You remember he showcased the Jensen bobblehead, the
Right.
avatar, and he's like walking in the data center, and the data center is just going crazy playing music. We always talked about, hey, how can we make a version like that, where I think even that digitalized human or bobblehead or whatever you want to call it, and have a PNY variant and do something cool and fun like that as well.
Yeah, that's actually something that I really wanted to touch on too, because I know on our end, when it comes to content creation, we're always trying to push the boundaries of what we've done before in the past, just to try and do something new, try and do something different and refreshing. Even if it's done in other ways that are out there on social media or on YouTube or whatever, we're trying to make it our own. So again, I think taking the different steps when it comes to content creation of, initially we started off just using a green screen, trying to have a flat layer where it's like, okay, this is how we're going to present our product. And now we're trying to incorporate it in many different ways, whether it's using 3D modeling, whether it's using Unreal Engine environments, and using the AI rendering and to be able to help us throughout our workflow process. Also, even again, as you said, when it comes to doing something new, trying to integrate, hey, how can we take and make our own, PNY version of a bobblehead who can talk and be our like quote unquote spokesman? How can we take ourselves and put us in a different environment, change and adjust the lighting? I think that's going to be the goal that we kind of see throughout the all of season 3, as well as even in our own general content creation process, because we have so many different things going on, whether it's just the podcast, whether it's content creation and planning different events, different things. But I think that there are so many different ways that we can use not just AI, but just standard NVIDIA technology.
Yeah, and I think one example too, like we're looking into and discussing is, vGPU. For us as a creative team, we're using Unreal Engine, we're using Adobe Suite. I mean, we're using all these different apps. And
Mhm.
then with, this is one good example of something we can maybe dive in deeper on the episode in season 3. With virtual GPU, you can essentially set up a machine. We can, sign into that. So the producer can be, setting the timeline, putting everything together, and then our 3D modeler can then begin putting his assets in there while it's all on one machine, which is cool. Then you and I, we can kind of go in, we can do reviews and,
Mhm.
make sure everything's look good.
Right.
There's a lot of benefits to it. And again, that's just like one very minute example of it. And as you mentioned too, like our own content, we started off with a green screen room,
Yeah.
and the virtual background I have right now on behind me, we created that through the actual
Unreal.
PNY Unreal, yeah, the PNY Virtual Studio, but with Unreal Engine. And now,
Mhm.
like the latest video that you did, which was really really cool, and kind of taking our ideas and again, always like we said in our previous episodes, is taking things a step further.
Mhm.
It's like, all right, myself, whether it's me, you, or Sai, we're in the studio talking, and now, okay, we're talking about RTX solutions in manufacturing. You know what, Jerome? Let's put you in a manufacturing setting. So then that way, again, what we're talking about, you can actually see playing out in real time. And the
Mhm.
same thing with different markets like, healthcare, ACO, all of that good stuff. So I
Right.
think even from the podcast, it's very exciting, but even kind of seeing the way that AI is playing a role and also Unreal Engine
Mhm.
is playing a role with even our creative team internally. It's exciting. I think that's another thing we can maybe, dive into more in season 3.
I think it's also really cool to know that we can be a little bit more creative on some of these things that we haven't been able to do in the past. Because again, for the example of say the manufacturing video, where the focus is on how do we tell a story of talking about how our GPUs or how PNY affects this specific market. We can break it down into many different ways. We could always just say like, this is how we affect it and why. This is what we do. And we could just do that in a standard way of just, putting some b-roll or some image of the manufacturers or a manufacturing plant, something like that, just a standard video. But to be able to take things a step further, put us in that type of environment that we don't necessarily have access to on that ESO side of things. We can't just walk to another manufacturing plant and just say, hey,
Yeah.
let's record. So I think that these ways in where we can try and be a little bit more creative, kind of adjust our mindsets and be like, oh, you know what? Even though we can't do it this way, being able to use this technology helps us to be able to kind of bypass around it, as well as find another different creative possibility. Again, for the other example of media and entertainment, say, for example, say we're in a studio, we can do it through Unreal Engine, or we could also, as you said, maybe create it in a way where maybe we're having that Jensen type bobblehead, and that's kind of focusing on media and entertainment, or focusing it on a different lens, using the creativity that we're able to use now that we're using this type of technology.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think the last thing too, just kind of hit on is, and you mentioned in the beginning there was, we did have that episode with Stacy from NVIDIA, and we talked and we highlighted NVIDIA RTX A1000 and RTX A400. which were the replacements of the existing T1000 and T400. And I think another thing to focus on and just again, explore a little bit more too is small form factor workstations.
Mm.
I know we do have a virtual event coming up on October 24th, which is going to be highlighting that. And again, season 3, I think that's another thing that we can explore is just AI workstation as a whole. What is considered an AI workstation? What hardware do you need? And there's workstations out there that are labeled as AI workstation ready that are only using CPUs, and maybe we explore, okay, a CPU based system is a great starter, but depending on what type of AI model you're training or what you're trying to do with your workflow, having an RTX GPU
Right.
is going to do this. And again, that I think that's the beauty of it because we're users ourselves and we're experiencing it in real time and firsthand. It's not just we're hopping on making videos or content for social
Right.
or a podcast, a virtual event of, hey, this is great and all that. Like we're actually doing it in our own workflows and actually can honestly speak to it,
Mhm.
which is going to be and is like another advantage. So I think, again, going back to the beginning of, talking about more software and all that, like we can talk about software and all the marketing buzz, but actually having a system and using it like we did with NVIDIA Omniverse Enterprise, it's totally a game changer and looking forward to do that with virtual GPU, AI workbench and such. So I know we have a lot of cool stuff in the works, and I think that will be some cool things that we can highlight in season 3. And then, again, have some really cool guest speakers on for season 3 and maybe see how what we're discussing is working within their company and within their clients and such. So kind of based off of that, Jerome, like what, I guess, is there a highlight or something for season 3 that you would look forward to or would like there's like one thing like Jerome, hey, there's one thing I want to definitely make sure we cover in season 3. Like what would that be for you?
Yeah, I think in terms of season 3, I think there are many things that we could talk about. One of the interests for me specifically, I think the digital humans are something that's really interesting because I would love to have someone from NVIDIA to talk a little bit more about it and how it even works. I know there's a lot behind it, whether it's the training aspects of the models to even getting them out in the world, and being able to use them in different ways. Again, whether it's talking about on the customer service side of things, whether it's in banking, whether it's in healthcare, having these digital humans in all these different facets of life, whether it's even on your phone or something like that, I think that that's
Yeah.
something that really interests me. How about you? Is there anything that kind of sparks your interest for season 3 that you really want to talk about?
So I know we cover, hardware, software, kind of looking forward to that in season 3. But I think one thing I definitely maybe I think we should revisit was in season 1, we had Chuck from PNY on, and we spoke about IGX, which was still kind of fresh at that time. But now, at that time of recording, it was shipping with the RTX A 6000, the Ampere variants, where now the 6000 ADA generation GPU is supported. So I think it'd be really cool to maybe revisit NVIDIA IGX Orin, the actual system with 6000 ADA generation in it, and then also kind of like how one that's going to improve the overall workflows or performance, but then two kind of going back to holoscan because I know we talked about having the goggles on for someone in medical. I
Right.
think that is very exciting. And I think that's one thing I absolutely love just about all of this is that, it's not so much of just, selling hardware or selling, software, or trying to put that messaging out there, but to actually see how these things work and benefit just us as, human life for medical to where if someone's getting open heart surgery, you put these goggles on, you can look in real time AI, and see, hey, this artery's clogged X amount of percent and kind of your next steps of what to do. It's almost like having another assistant there with you and
Mhm.
there's no latency. It's all done in real time. So I think that definitely sparks my interest amongst, I mean, I definitely am looking forward to software, but yeah, IGX I think would be cool to revisit and explore, that system now with 6000 ADA in it.
Yeah, I actually really like that too. I think that the medical field is something that we dabble into a little bit, especially even the times when we spoke about it with Justin Wang from Exact. I think that there were many different aspects of the medical side where, we really get to see the impact of how these GPUs and the IGX Orin are used in these different ways. But sometimes it may not be so obvious to just the general people out there and be like, okay, well, what is this? What is this box? What is this system? What does it actually do? And to see the results and some of the numbers and the percentage of how it can calculate or use AI to be able to see, to diagnose this kind of cancer, or it goes up by this percent. I think that those kind of instances are really important for people to even hear about, because it also gives a little bit more, I guess you can kind of say, like, more of like a quantifiable, like, knowledge base. And when it comes to
Yeah.
like, okay, I actually am seeing that this is impacting lives. I can see the percentages rise from this case, and get, and help people in many different ways of life.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Again, that just it's one thing to, again, talk about and see it, but actually be able to see how it works in all these different verticals and markets. It's mind blowing because, like you said, from the outside in, you might think, oh, this is a cool GPU or this is a cool system, but then now taking a step further is like, oh, this system's great for, again, medical. All right, so how is it good for medical? Have small form factor solutions for imaging devices, to where then you have like the 6,000 ADA for something that's in IGX system, helping an actual surgeon in real time doing surgery. So it's more than just, the hardware and software. It's actually impacting lives, and it's impacting the world, which, again, I absolutely love about this career and just everything that we do in a day-to-day basis.
Yeah, well, I mean, from there, I think that's a great way to close out season 2. I think we had a great season 2, great run so far. And again, I'm looking forward to see what we do in season 3, the different guests, the different topics that we talk about. You want to tell everyone where you can find us?
Well, yeah, if you're a visual person like myself, make sure you are subscribed to the PNY Pro YouTube channel. If you just like to listen to the audio portion, you can listen to it on your favorite podcast platform. And lastly, make sure you're following PNY Pro on social media to stay up to date with our latest virtual events, podcast episodes, and other great content. And that's all I have for season 2. Excited to wrap this season up and looking forward to season 3. Take care, everyone.
Take care.